Today on the Idiot's Guide, we are talking about identity theft. Woo! The dark web and the evil monsters lurking around any corner of the internet. And also, you like dags? Quote Brad Pitt from a not so known movie called Snatch back in 2000. I'm your host, Adam Richardson, aka the Prophet Hacker, and I'm joined by the man in charge, Mr. Joe Haslam. Welcome to the Idiot's Guide. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today on this fantastic Idiot's Guide episode. Today's kind of a touchy subject, I believe. I think there's a lot of people who basically, they don't like, nobody likes this. Nobody's like, oh, wow, hey guys, guess what I get to do? I get to deal with a whole bunch of crap falling apart in my whole life. That's fun. The reason why we decided to tackle this subject is I actually have been, over the last few months, combating a basic malicious takeover of all of my data of every direction. I've been disabled on Facebook. Any of my business advertising is now permanently disabled. I have to rebuild from ground up because of a hack that somebody got in and changed my information. So it sucks because I call myself the Prophet Hacker, but, I'm not that kind of a hacker, but I'm a victim of them. Actually, what's interesting is 1 in 4 in the United States will fall victim to identity theft or some variation of that.
Yeah, it's not as uncommon as people think it is.
Yeah. It's, so anyway, I'm wading through probably I pray is the worst of this because, This can really, even doing the research for this episode was kind of eye-opening in the sense that, you can get blamed for things that somebody took your identity, committed a crime, and you go to jail for. So it's pretty ugly stuff, guys. It's real ugly.
Yeah.
So
identity theft is not something to take lightly. It's a really big issue.
Yeah. I think the challenge that a lot of people don't really recognize is, they say like, hey, let's try to safeguard this. You should get this security program, or you should get, you should keep your web or your passwords like, okay, now if your password's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or if your password is password, like, please do us all a favor and change it. Because that's just really lazy, and you're really you have a billboard up for your identity to be hacked, But, if you're like any other normal person, it's really difficult because they're like, well, you have to have a special character, a capitalized letter, a lowercase letter, some numbers, a blood sample, all this stuff to be able to get access. And you have these special passwords that you have to satisfy. Some of them are just insane. And then they're like, well, that contains a letter from your last name, and so we can't have that as your password. I'm like, my last name's pretty long, so it has quite a few letters. Anyway, my point is this: it's a headache, and I'm going through it right now. I will elaborate a little in detail. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want that stuff coming back at me, but yeah, it's a nightmare, guys, and I don't wish this upon anyone ever.
Be prepared. There may be a lot of bleep outs on this one because Adam is really worked up. As that makes sense. He's dealing with it right now, and so we're hitting some raw nerves here.
Yeah.
But we figured this was a great opportunity to talk about this stuff and what can be done, what you can do to mitigate some of those things. If it does happen to you, what to do about it, and a lot of the details that go along with that. Now, one of the big problems, Adam was just talking about passwords. Passwords are getting so complicated nowadays. Now, the reason you have to have that complex password is because these hackers have programs that will run through these different options for passwords. So they'll try to guess the password. They do the quick ones. And they've got these systems that will basically predict those passwords. And so having the complex ones means it's much harder to be able to predict what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, human memory is not that good. And so people either choose to write their passwords down, which don't ever do, because someone who comes in will be able to access your computers. They use an online password protector like a 1Password or LastPass, any of those big ones. Now the problem is generally those are secure, but LastPass over the last couple of years has been hacked multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're again running into problems of you're protecting your passwords and yet at the same time that's getting hacked.
I'm at this point now where I'm not writing them down, but I have an independent hard drive that is password protected, and the password on the hard drive is different than any other password that I have. So you're not going to get access to the hard drive that's encrypted, and then you're not going to get access. I mean, you'd literally have to beat me up, take it to get the passwords. That's the extent I'm at right now, and I'm a big guy, so bring it.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing, and this is the biggest problem. So those two are the main things that people are doing right now to remember all these passwords. But the biggest problem is people are afraid of writing it down or using one of these password managers. And so they forget their passwords.
Yeah.
And it's become all too easy to hit that forgot password. And now banks, online sites, that financial institutions, any of these, Google, Facebook, anything, they're so used to people doing these forgot passwords that it's no longer a trigger of there being something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just common to forgot your password. And so now they don't even have to guess your password anymore, these hackers. All they have to do is get into your email. Once they have your email, which is all over the dark web, then they can get that email, log in, do a forgot my password on one of your accounts, grab it with your email address, and now they're in.
I had a situation happen in June where an individual called me and impersonated a representative from my bank. And my bank is very specific about how they address me. And that's the first sign that I was like, huh. So they'll Mr. Richardson. They're very, very respectful about how they address. And so I was a little thrown off when they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they're, I believe they called me by. So I go by my middle name. So everyone, they know me as Adam Richardson. That is my middle name,
Mm-hmm.
and that is something that they called me. They called me by my middle name, and I was like, okay, this is so. But it was still like he seemed really professional. And so I was like, okay, all right, I'll give it, the whatever, like just kind of give them a chance here. And so they continue to go and they're like, whoa, like we noticed some information and we needed to make sure that we need to verify this with you. Will you do me a favor? I'm going to go ahead and trigger a code for you to read off to me. Well, this code, they verify when I call the bank as well, if they do that, but usually it's in a string of verification and I initiate the call. And it literally says on the code, if you are called and they ask for this, it's not. Well, guess what I did? I gave him the code.
Oh.
I was like, but I felt so bad about it afterward because he was like, oh yeah, we'll take care of this. We'll change this and change all that. And I was like, what I did is I authorized, they got access to reset everything, went into my system and just started having fun. Okay. Yep. I immediately after I got off the phone, I hung up with them and I called my bank and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't you that called me. They're like, did you just get a call? I was like, yes. They're like, no, we didn't call you. Like we see the record here in our files, nothing. So immediate everything. I changed everything on my system, on my wife's system, all my kids, like everything wiped clean because I wanted zero impact from that. And quite honestly, it was zero impact. Like the only thing that I noticed recently is I went through a device list because of the now recent identity stuff that I'm going through. And there was a name on there of a device that was attached to my access, like an access device. And I was like, I don't know that dude. That's probably the guy that called me. So I think it was like Vince. So if a Vince calls you, just so you guys know, he's not doing business with you good.
Well,
So
and not just that, a bank will never call you. So if a bank attempts to call you, if a financial institution attempts to call you, a loan company attempts to call you, a credit agency attempts to call you. Now, credit agencies do generally call, but they usually send a letter out first before they call you. So you'll know that someone's going to be calling. But one of the big things is do not, I cannot emphasize this enough, do not ever give any personal information, ever.
yeah.
And there are a lot of scams. The IRS, one of my daughters had an IRS call a few years ago, quote unquote IRS call, where it was, we're going to send you to jail if you don't send us this money. And she panicked. Fortunately, she knows not to do something, and she sends me the voicemail when she gets stuff like that. And so she's like, what do I do? And so explained to her it's just a scam call, all that. So she was fine. But all these things happen. They will call pretending to be a child or a grandchild in trouble, in distress, pretend to be police officers, pretend to be prisons, all these things in order to try to get you to give them information. Never, ever, ever give out information. I know it's your first instinct to do it, but never give out information. If it's someone calling from a prison, if it's an officer calling about someone in distress, don't ever give that information out. They will never ask you for your financial information, ever. They're never going to do that.
Wait. So just so we're clear, they're never.
Never.
Oh, okay. All right. Just making sure.
Yeah. I can't say it enough. They are never.
I'm gonna get some big bold letters for every time it says never in this episode.
They're never going to do that because that's not what they do. You know, financial institutions aren't going to call you. If you do get a call, you hang up. You tell them, if you're really the bank, that's fine. I'm going to call back the bank's main number.
Mm-hmm.
And if it really is the bank, which, again, it's not, but if it really is the bank on a rare circumstance, then because you're already talking to them about something else already. It's the only time it may happen that way, which you should already know that there's communication lines going there. It should be the same person you're talking to before. But if there is ever a situation like that, then they'll note in the account, you know, they're going to call back. And then you call the main number and make sure that it was actually the bank. Never give out the information. Always hang up and call the actual number. If it's a police situation, this was something that happened here. I think it was up in Draper, or a family was on vacation. One of their kids stayed home, and they got a call that their daughter that stayed home was in distress from a supposed police officer that was saying, you know, she's in danger. Someone's after her. You need to give us this money. And so they were smart enough. They didn't do anything, but they did stay on the line with them, assuming that this was actually a real situation. They finally did get a hold of their daughter and realized there was nothing going on and reported everything. But if it's a police situation where they're dealing with that, you hang up and you call the main police line, not the 911. You don't necessarily need the 911, although if it's a dire urgency like this, then 911 may be the right option. But what you do is you call the local police line. So if you're out of town, you're in another city, you call your home city's police line. And then by calling that, they will direct you and let you know if there's an active case involving your child. And so all of these situations, same with a prison. If someone is purporting to be your child in prison and they need bail money, which is a common one, my wife's grandmother actually got that call. Yes, these things actually happen. I mean, these are real circumstances. You hang up and that prison has a phone number for you to call.
Yeah.
And you can call the prison and say, hey, I think I was scammed. I'm not sure. Do you have this person there? Did they just call me? And the prison will tell you, no, we didn't. They are not here, because they know these scams are real. And so they will do whatever they can to help you. Hang up. Don't ever talk to them. You call the bank. You are the one to initiate the call. Do not accept calls from someone purporting to be anyone asking you for financial information.
Some of the main things that I was looking at here for kind of types of identity theft, probably the most prevalent is financial theft. But it comes in the form like so. Another one would be medical identity theft. So impersonating someone else and going in to receive medical treatment for whatever reason. And then social security identity theft. I mean, that one's running with your social security number, filing taxes, to basically like a takeover on an account and running up excessive transactions, which kind of ties into the financial side of it. But on the social security side, that's kind of like a key to pretty much any financial aspect that you want. Most institutions, that's your go-to. So if that's compromised, that's a real big threat to every corner of your life. Criminal identity theft, that's where they commit a crime. Years ago, my sister, and this wasn't really an identity theft more so than it was that somebody borrowed her car and drove it to a gas station, filled the car with gas, and drove away without paying for it. This was back when you couldn't, like it authorized a certain amount. So yeah, they did not have the money to pay for it, got the gas and drove away. And my sister gets, a cop shows up, pulls up in the driveway. They found the car and starts to initiate an arrest because there's a warrant out for her car, that the plates of that car. So, and then child identity theft. So one of the things that we're dealing with right now is because of the type of identity theft that's going on, I have to go and make sure that the information for my child is secured because they can do all of these categories of things that I just said all in my child's name and it become, something that when he goes to, be an adult someday that we have this issue. And so it's a mess. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, and a lot of this happens. I mean, it is really insane how all that happens. Now, I've got a fun story for this. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I say fun story.
Gather around, children.
This is a little bit of my family history. Okay. So my grandfather was a unique individual. I never met him. He died before I was born. But when my mom was trying to do any genealogy work on my grandfather, she could not find any information on him. Throughout all the time that she was growing up and trying to get all this information on him, he had 2 different birthplaces and 3 different birth dates, depending on what information he was telling them or what they were looking at. And so she finally had a breakthrough when I was about 16 years old. And so she'd been doing this for 20 years, trying to find anything about him. And the only way she found it was because there was a woman who was about the age of what my grandfather's mother would be, and had the same last name. And when they were issuing the social security numbers, was 1 digit off of his. So the suspicion was he went in, got a social security number with his mom, because back then they didn't just issue them in hospitals. You had to actually go and get one. And most women didn't necessarily need one. But if he was going in, she would get one as well. And so we suspect that's what happened. And that is actually what happened. And so we found out that my grandfather had 2 families. And that all of his information was actually wrong. He had stolen an identity in order to start over in California. And it's so crazy. We don't know his motivation for why he did this. But he had 4 daughters with his prior family. So my family is the second family, unfortunately. But 2...
Wouldn't that make it fake family?
No, because he was actually divorced.
Well, what you mean? Like you said that he stole someone's identity and then started another family.
He had he used the same name.
Okay.
But, so it was weird how he did all this. Back then, it was a lot easier to do weird things like this. But two of the daughters from his first family were the same names as two of the daughters from his second family. I don't know if he just didn't want to make
I
sure.
just really like those names. Didn't want to forget them.
Something. But he even faked his own
He didn't like the first round, so he's like, let's try it again. Let's see if I name them the same. I'm pretty sure it'll turn out better.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's crazy that all of that happens. But yeah, he was a unique individual. It faked his college credentials and all those kinds of things. But yeah, that's how it works. This is not something new.
Yeah.
This is something that's been around for a long, long, long time.
I think maybe the big difference is, like it's easier we can say back then it was easier to do those sorts of things. I think the reach and extent of damage is far greater now.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that, if I listed off all of the things that have happened since I had a data breach in May, it's insane. There are so many things, so many times I've had to contact financial institutions to make sure that things are safe or returned or, because stuff just got ordered on other accounts. So
yeah, we're so tied into those Social Security numbers. Again, he had to go and register for a Social Security number back then.
Yeah.
As opposed to just it being issued. And so because we're so tied into these Social Security numbers now, it's become much more common. It's not any easier. It's actually a lot harder for these hackers to get into it, but you build a better mousetrap, then you get a better mouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what's happening. Back then, it was a lot easier to do these kinds of things. Now it's harder, but it impacts so many more aspects of an individual's life.
I think my brain is on a rabbit trail with your grandpa about the idea that you had this one his name in one state, and then he goes to California and he changes so he has like a Polish accent so that
no, he was not that sophisticated.
I just think that how do you trick one office and then you go to the next office with a little bit different person. You can have the same name because there's plenty of people who have the same name, but you just
back then they didn't really do a lot of those.
How do you
checks.
verify?
They don't verify,
right?
And so it wasn't common practice back then to verify. I mean, to be honest, and I know this sounds a little weird, but he was a middle-aged white guy.
Yeah,
back in the 40s and 50s. You didn't question that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. But, I mean, that is what he did. But yeah, and I think that's one of the big things is we cannot, there's a stigma out there about being a victim of identity theft. We don't talk about it a lot. If it happens to us, we try to hide it, try to deal with it on our own, and just not really, talk about it a lot. And I think we need to talk about it more.
I think, only because this is like a real time situation here. The biggest thing for me is I didn't feel like talking about it. I have a little community of people who know, but it's not something that I air out on my social media stuff and things like that because I don't want that attention, and two, it's really unsettling. It's like when somebody comes onto your property and they steal something from you or get into your car and take something. It's very, I can't remember the word. Yeah, you feel very vulnerable, and so it's not that I don't trust people, but I don't trust people right now. It's this natural tendency to be like, okay, I'm just kind of shutting my doors for a minute and collecting and seeing what's going on.
Yeah, and I think one thing is we do have to try to work past that.
Yeah.
Because by hiding that and by, closing off the doors, you're closing off the doors to a lot of opportunities for other people who have been through that to help you through the process.
And honestly, with the small community I shared it with, they've already given input to help us through what we're going through. They're like, hey, you need to make this contact, make sure you do this. So they're helping me cross T's and dot I's and making sure that, hey, like these guys have walked through it, they've been down this road, and it may not look the same as mine, but it feels they can sympathize and give guidance. And that's really honestly, the benefit of that is reaching into your community and saying, like, let them show you. Because like I said, 1 in 4, that's
Yeah.
the odds are you've got somebody in your life who's experienced it.
Yeah. And, it's the more information that's out there, as far as communicating with people, the more information you're going to get back. So if
Yeah.
any of our listeners have ever been the victim of identity theft, or if you're ever the victim of identity theft in the future, don't be afraid to talk about it with people, because it is a very common thing, unfortunately. And there are a lot of people out there who can help you, not just, through the difficulties of finding it, but the emotional toll that it takes on you to do that, being able to talk about it and being able to address that. It really does help, because it's an extremely emotionally stressful time to be going through those issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, before we go too far, now I do want to share one story. Again, talking about this is very common. People have probably heard this story before, but there was a company called LifeLock that said that they would do all these things for you, prevent the identity theft and all these things. And so in the commercials, the CEO put his social security number out there and dared anyone to hack his life. Well, they did. And for a long time, they only reported that he had been hacked once, when in reality, he had been hacked at least 13 times.
Ugh.
And so one of them was in, so 4 months after the first one happened. So there was a big story about it. Everyone learned about it. 4 months after it was stolen, his identity was stolen again. But the problem is he only learned about it a year later. And so here's a guy who runs a identity theft protection company, and he didn't even learn about this until a year after, when a collection agency started coming after him for this bill.
That's
So
sad and scary. Like,
if you have been the victim, you're not alone. This guy, now granted, he did put his social security number out there, but that's really what we do. Job applications, any health insurance applications, anything, school applications, all of our information is out there.
yeah.
And so if he can be the victim, anyone can.
Well, and honestly, like I've gotten documentation from specific things that, I mean, guys, check your mail, because they're going to have, depending on what kind of document you're getting, I'll say this. There are certain things that I receive that always have my social security number full in plain sight on there. So I'm checking this stuff regularly to make sure, and shredding it. And if I don't have a shredder, I'm burning it. Like I will find a way to do something about it.
Yeah. So I've got some mitigation tools here. So these are ways that you can help prevent identity theft. Now, some of these you've probably already heard before, and we're just rehashing the old stuff. But not all of them may be you've heard before. So the first one is check your accounts daily. Okay. This doesn't mean that you're micromanaging your spending or anything like that, but check your accounts daily, just to make sure that there's no random strange transactions. Don't wait for your monthly statement to show up. Check it daily.
We have, and this was probably a first indicator for us, was all of our notifications were turned off.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't receive any information until it was too late. But when we originally, our accounts, the way that they were set up was for it to send us a daily ledger. So every day it would send us the status, and it would match what we're running as far as totals. or if there's any variable or any large amounts that go through, it would let us know the moment that was happening. And if it was a certain, we had limitations to that. So there was safeguards in place that were all shut off in this process. So, you know,
And that's why you check your account daily.
yep.
So the next one on here is to get transaction emails for any charge over a penny. Most people will do a charge over $100,
Nuts.
and yeah, but the reality
At this point, I will do that.
exactly. So most people only do it over $100 or over $500 or anything like that. Well, the problem is they're going to start small, and so you want to make sure you're getting these daily emails so that you know, hey, this is what's going on, and it's not just the emails every morning. It's anytime someone does a transaction. And so, like today, my wife had a doctor appointment that she can't drive to, or she can't drive home from. And so she takes an Uber. I didn't realize she had the doctor appointment today. And I was checking my emails and I saw that email come in that there was a charge. So I looked at it, Uber. Okay, so I checked my camera at home and saw my wife leaving in the Uber. Okay, so she's got a doctor appointment. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it just looks like a random Uber charge. Who's going to be using Uber in the middle of the day? You know, if you've got cars at home, if you've got those things, there's no reason to have an Uber charge. But there was a reason for today.
Yeah.
And so that's where, as you're looking at these things, getting those email alerts and checking them, don't just ignore them, actually look at them and see what's coming through. But if those get turned off because a hacker got into your account, well, one, you should recognize that it's not coming through. But two, if you're checking your account every day, so the first thing I do when I come into the office every morning is log into my bank, check my bank accounts, and look for any odd transactions. And so that's just a habit. It's something active that you're doing and not passive waiting for those emails.
So don't check my Twitter feed first. Okay.
No, check your bank account first.
Sorry, X feed.
That's right. It is now X. So another one that really works for me is don't use real information on your security questions for your logins. So now when you're setting up an account and it's asking for information for verification, you have to use real information. I'm talking about, security question 1, security question 2, security question 3, etc. on all these accounts. Use fake information.
What was the street of your mother's growing like she grew up on? You're like,
right.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Well, they give you all the options so you can
Wall
pick
Street.
one, and that's you're going to answer that. Well, the problem is if a hacker is in your life, in your emails, they're getting your personal information.
Yeah.
They can see what street you grew up on. They can see what elementary or high school you went to. And if those are the information that you're putting in, well, right away, the hacker's going to know that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to put that in and they're off to the races. And so find something fake. Now, again, we're getting into the situation of, we're having to remember so many things, but find something that you can put in there that is going to be fake, that you're going to be able to remember so that there's no way a hacker's going to be able to get in there. It's a secondary password that you have now created on your account with those security questions, because they may be able to get past the first password, but they're not getting past the second one because you've got a completely random thing in there for where you went to high school. Okay. So that's a really good one that works really well. Two additional things that a lot of people don't realize is don't answer unknown phone calls and don't read or open unknown texts. Okay. So a lot of people think it's fun when they get the random phone call. Oh, this is a solicitor. I'm going to give them a hard time. Well, a lot of times it's not a solicitor. What it actually is a robocall looking for phone numbers. And what they're looking for is an active phone number. So as soon as someone answers that phone, they know that this line is real and active. And now they can go and do searches on that phone number. So in the forensic auditing that I do, that's one of the big things that I do is I get a phone number and I start doing searches on it to see if this person is legitimately real. That's part of forensic accounting.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you do is these hackers will find out that this is a real phone number. So this is active because someone answered. And so they go and it's a quick search, really quick search. I do this on my daughter's boyfriends all the time. Um, yeah.
She'll be home by 10, right? Yes. That's why. Because you will financially ruin me if I don't bring her home by 10. So.
Well, I shouldn't say boyfriends, the guys that they date, because I do background checks on them. My daughters love it because
I'm sure.
they hated it first. But then afterward, after a couple times when it's kind of a skis ball and I warned them about it, they're like, okay, you were right. Which is something that a dad loves.
You're going to thank me later for this.
But no, so we do the searches, and once I get even the smallest bit of information about them, get a phone number especially, or an address or anything like that, now I can find everything about them. So when they come to pick up my daughters, I start asking them questions about their family, telling them I know everything about them because I've done the research. Yeah. And so it scares the living daylights out of them, knowing that I know everything about them and their parents and their grandparents, and all their life. So this is exactly how hackers do it. I do it to protect my daughters. You can imagine what a hacker's going to do if they've got a dollar motivation here.
Yeah.
And so they get that and they know it's an active phone number by just going through a whole list, and whichever one picks up, they know it's active. Okay. So always do a quick Google check on that phone number. If you're not in front of a computer or anything like that, just don't even answer. If you don't recognize the number, do not answer. They'll leave you a voicemail. You can call back if it's someone that you need to talk to. Mm-hmm. Okay. But do a quick Google search. If nothing comes up and it's just like Chinese characters or other things like that on a big old list, you know that is a spammed phone number. So one of my daughters, actually, her phone got spoofed. Her phone number got spoofed. And so we got her a brand new phone, and like a week later, she started just getting random, nasty, mean text messages. How dare you call me? How could you do this? You're horrible. You should die. Because her phone number got spoofed. And so a hacker was using her phone number to make all of these phone calls. And so they texted her back, and she wasn't the one that was making these calls. So we had to get her a new phone number. But again, text messages, the same thing. People don't realize that when you get these random texts, as soon as you open it, the hacker knows that it's been opened.
Yeah.
And so don't even open a random text message, because then they know you're a live person and they can start getting your information off of that phone number. Just delete it. You can look at the preview, make sure it's nothing real. You can alert that phone number. It'll give you everything. Send it into the FBI, send it into, there are a lot of different places that you can send the information into. But just don't ever actually open it. Just delete the text message. Otherwise, they're going to get your information. And so there are a lot of these things where they get in really quickly. So 2 other items really quick. I know we're going a little long today.
No, you're good, because I got a couple things I want to add to some of the stuff about what I'm walking through right now. Some of the next steps.
So one other thing that you can do is get your credit report. Okay. There are free ways of getting credit reports. A lot of credit card companies will do that as just a free service as part of your credit card. And so definitely sign up for that. If you don't have anything like that, there is a website called annualcreditreport.com. And it is, they'll give you a free weekly credit report for 12 months because of all of these scams going on. So they're working with the government to be able to provide a lot of these resources. So
that's changed since last I referred that, because you could get a free credit report every single year. You could pull your own credit and they'll send it to you. But that's better, and in the sense of what we're combating. That's good.
So it only lasts for 12 months, but you can get that free credit report. I would recommend, if your credit card doesn't provide it, do this for a while, but save up the money. Some of these are as inexpensive as $10. I think the most expensive ones are like $40 a month, which can be a high cost. But when you think about how much money you could potentially lose because of identity theft, $40 is definitely worth the cost.
Honestly, like when you're talking about a credit monitoring, so I have a couple credit monitoring services that we use. One is I don't think is quite as strong, but it's informative, which is Credit Karma. And it's okay. It's a free service, so there's no cost to it. But if you are a credit card holder, and honestly, the service that does this, it doesn't necessarily require you to have any sort of large limit for it, but Capital One has a service with theirs called CreditWise, and it is a monitoring service that's constant and really responsive. It's paired with any one of their cards that has Capital One on it. So
Yep.
even if it's a prepaid Visa that you have through Capital One, you qualify for free CreditWise. So it's worth it to be able to take advantage of that. There are lots of services out there that are very similar to that they'll pair it with something that you're already connected with them for. And honestly, that's a real big lifesaver when you want an immediate snapshot, nearly constant for your credit.
Yeah, and I've got a Capital One account. I've got the CreditWise. That's what I use.
Yep.
No, they're not a sponsor. They're not anything, but it is a really good service. I
If you
really
would
like
like
it.
to, though, Capital One, we are interested, definitely.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, those are great services that you can find that will give you that information. The last one that I have here is Shred Everything.
Yes.
My wife hates me for this, but even if it's just a random piece of junk mail, shred it.
Mhm.
Shred everything. You have no idea how much information can be exposed about you with the simplest of information. Prescription bottles. People
Yeah.
are used to just tossing those out. Do not toss out your prescription bottles. Make sure that you take that label off if you are going to throw out the bottle and shred the label. The receipts that come when you pick up a prescription, so all those 4 or 5 pages long of all the side effects of these medications, shred those, because at the very top of them it has your information.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about that because a lot of times the receipt is up there, and so we just toss it out. Don't, because there's a lot of information on there that people can use against you. So shred literally everything. Shred your receipts. Shred, because what can happen is, even with your receipts, if they go through your dumpster, they can get a pattern of information about how you behave. Once they have that pattern, then they can go and take your identity without ever actually getting your social security number or anything else. And they start acting because they know where you shop, they know what you do, they know everything essentially about your daily life, and they can mimic that. By mimicking that, they can then get your social security number.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of these things that I know it seems like a lot of hassle to shred a receipt when you go to McDonald's, but shred the receipts. Don't throw them out in the garbage. Never throw anything that has anything to do with financial, with medication, with anything in the garbage. Shred it.
There's a couple preventative things that this isn't a guarantee to avoid hackers or malicious intent, but they are some good things that we've covered here, talking about strong use of passwords and in particular things. I'm a fan of this part, which is the two-factor authentication, although sometimes that still has its vulnerabilities. However, that gives two different directions for one password to go. So it's really a lot more challenging for it to just be overcome or bypassed. Then the other one is secure Wi-Fi, like an encrypted Wi-Fi. Oftentimes you'll hear people say a VPN or a virtual
Private network.
private network. I have a software on my computer that I can basically just click a switch and it goes, my entire system goes VPN. And that the reason why that is there are people who use the data just from the address your computer is broadcasting because you're on the internet, and they can zero in, pinpoint, and start their business. A VPN basically makes that so that you're virtually invisible. It's really difficult for them to pinpoint where you're located. The other thing is adjust privacy settings. Honestly, if you are airing out everything on social media, stop, because that's the easiest way for them to figure out passwords and all that kind of stuff. Um, Shredding documents, that's definitely a yes, a must. If not, burn it. Do everything you can to destroy the documents. I know global warming, but you know,
Shred it and use it
you're
in your
you're
compost.
not gonna, yeah.
Most of these papers are paper, and so they're easily going to be composted in your garden.
It's biodegradable, guys. It's super fast. It used to be a tree.
Throw it in with your, if you've got, your kitchen scraps, if you're doing one of those compost heaps, throw it in there. It will biodegrade along with all of the vegetable matter.
Yep. Being cautious online. Not clicking on clickbait items or suspicious emails. Your friend emails you and they're like, "You won't believe what this is," and you're like, "You're not my friend. You're just pretending to be my friend." And then on the other side, this is more of the response. If you have, if you suspect that you are a victim of identity theft or malicious and attacks on online on your content or anything like that, contact the authorities, report it. The reason why is a case number is going to help you. Honestly, in a lot of these areas, the institutions will take you more seriously if you have a police report. They're going to have questions about, like, well, why did you do this? Why is this? If you don't have that sort of stuff, so definitely contacting the authorities. Contact financial institutions, whatever you're connected to. Make sure that is Fort Knox locked down. Credit bureaus, you can report to the credit bureaus. You have to do it individually, but when you do that, you can do what's called a credit freeze. It will basically stop anything from being approved without your direct permission. And you can lock it down to the point where you can't even do anything if you truly want to. And then
And you can call all three credit bureaus, which I generally would recommend. But if you only call one credit bureau, they will share the information with the other two.
right.
And so you can call all three. You can just call one. I still recommend calling all three just in case, because it could take some time and it could go through. If it's a different part of the country, then it may go through on a different credit bureau before they share the information. But just know, if you only do call one, they will share the information with the other two.
The other one is documentation. Guys, have a notepad, write down names who you talk to no matter where you're at. Whether that's calling a credit bureau and you're talking to a rep there, your financial institution, anybody that you speak with, write down the information. If they did an action, they'll have a confirmation number. Write down that information so that you are continuing to track this wherever it goes. And that's your own, that's going to be your benefit, is those little details come to mind later. If there's somebody who has a discrepancy about this, you say, well, on this date at this time, I talked to so and so and they authorized this. It should be in the notes and it lines up. Voila, you're good. The other part of that is, and this is something that isn't, well, all of these things, you can actually go to a website called identitytheft.gov. You can go on there and start the initiation, initiate all of this. There's an application. It'll ask you in very specific detail about a lot of this stuff, and it'll coach you through each one of these steps. One of the things that I learned that isn't actually on that one is, and this is a good benefit, contact your attorney general, your local attorney general for the state. So I reached out to our state's attorney general here. I have that process in motion, but that's an advocate in your corner. They are here for you. And specifically, I don't know in other states, but here we actually have an entire division under the attorney general for identity theft. Yeah. So it's something that's a massive benefit to have in your corner, and just kind of that peace of mind of going like, look, this dude's in government willing to fight government for my case. So thank you.
And when you do call your financial institutions, I'm just going to throw this out there. They're going to do their investigations. They're going to do that stuff. If you don't feel that they're working in your best interest, you go a little Karen on them. Remember, this is your financial life. And so there is no problem going Karen.
Or Kevin.
Or Kevin. Yeah, whatever the male version of that.
I mean, it's your choice.
Ask for a supervisor. Ask for a supervisor.
Yes.
The main people, they're just working a day job. They're just answering phones, following a script. Talk to a supervisor. Make sure that you are getting the care that you need from your financial institution. And one thing, as they're doing their investigations, make sure that they are checking the IP addresses of where those connections were coming from. That's the most significant way that they can identify whether there's fraud or not, is through the IP address. Because when you're on an IP address at home, it's going to have a specific location, and that's where it's always coming in from. The IP addresses of people attacking your accounts will generally be from out of state, sometimes even out of country. And so those IP addresses will be very clearly not you. And so make sure that they are looking for those IP addresses and tell them to look at the IP addresses.
Yeah, I think when I had the Facebook takeover and they did all the changes, it was on the other side of the world.
Yeah,
Turkey, I think
my
is where.
Hulu account was hacked 2 years ago or something. It was Pakistan.
Yeah. So, guys, this stuff is pretty serious. It's very unsettling, and just take it from me. You don't want it. It sucks. It's hard, and it's really difficult to deal with this stuff. There's moments that it's just like you feel really helpless in what's going on, and you kind of have to wait for every piece of the authorities to really kind of determine where to move forward. So you feel very vulnerable being that out of control of that situation.
Now, there are some ways. So one of the biggest problems that comes from this is people accounts they're no longer able to use. Bill pays are gone. Where do you send your checks to now? Because your banks are completely compromised.
Yep.
It's really difficult. So one thing, whenever you have an issue with identity theft, make sure you go and open a new bank account at a completely different bank using the non-hacked individual's information. And so if you are hacked and your spouse was not, open the bank account in your spouse's name only. So you are not on the account at all. If it happened to your spouse, do not put your spouse on that bank account, on the new bank account. Keep it in your name only. And the reason for that is because they've already hacked that individual. And so they have all that information. No matter where you go, they're compromised. Mm-hmm. And so you go to a new bank, a new institution, somewhere that has less of a reach. So generally not a national bank. Find maybe a local credit union, something like that, because it's more local. And so it's going to be easier to spot if someone hacks you again or if they're able to get into your account. If you don't have a spouse or if you've both been hacked, there are additional ways to open bank accounts in using a friend or a relative that can allow you to continue to live your financial life. Okay. So they can do custodial accounts. They can do trust accounts. And all these things, they're going to be in the name of the person that opens the account. So that would be your relative, that would be your friend, but they're for the benefit of you. And so they open the account, but it's for your benefit. So you can use the cards, you can do all that stuff. And generally you don't have to give all of your social security information. And even if you do, then that person who opens that trust account, who opens that beneficiary account, all those things, they're the ones that control everything.
Call me old fashioned, but at the end of the day, if I felt like everything was compromised and I'm going to be doing what you just said. And, it's something that I'm going to take that precaution. But if my information is compromised, it gets to this point where I said, okay, well, I'm going to take one step back in, the generation of how I got paid, and I'm going to ask for a hard check. And I'm going to go to that financial institution and cash that check. If it's a U.S. Treasury check or something like that, depending on whatever you get, however that stuff goes through, you're able to cash those checks and hold on to the cold hard cash. And, unless somebody comes knocking, I really regret that person knocking on my door to come and take my cash if I'm at that point. But really the whole point of it is I wouldn't do that. Holding that much cash is not really, valuable. But, in my situation, I had kid accounts that are impacted because of this. And those kid accounts weren't massive, so if I look at like, okay, the benefit is, I get, a little bit of percent of something each month based on what was in the account. And I just said, honestly, it's not worth this for me to hold that in a bank. I'll put it in a pillowcase and honestly, I'll make more than it wasn't worth it. Like the interest that I'm making on it is not worth it. It's a savings account. So it's just a place to hold money. And I thought that it was safe.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you ever do need, if you're wanting to go cash only, unfortunately in today's world, that's not really an option.
For most places, yeah, they're trying to go digital everywhere.
If you've got a cell phone, there's no place where you can go and pay cash for your cell phone.
Right.
And so what you can do is you can actually go to somewhere like Walmart and get a prepaid Visa card. And so you can cash your check, take the cash to Walmart and put, however much on your prepaid Visa card, American Express card, whatever one you want. And for a small fee.
I thought they didn't allow you to use cash.
You can use cash for it.
Okay.
They don't like it because it can be seen as a form of money laundering.
Well, yeah,
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Seen it happen.
But you can.
Okay. Here's son. Here's your life savings in a little piece of plastic. Don't lose this plastic. Don't melt it. This is all of yours.
Yeah. You can also get prepaid cards from your bank. So most banks or credit unions will have prepaid cards. And so because you're doing it at the bank, there's definitely not money laundering going on. They're a little bit more secure rather than going to Walmart, but you're still tied to a bank. And a lot of times they won't let you do that unless you have an account there. So if your accounts are already compromised, then you're running into a problem anyway. That's why I say somewhere like Walmart generally is going to be good. Some tellers may not let you do that. And then you can just go and maybe go to a seedier Walmart. And
go to the Walmart that's not as kept up as the one on the other side of town.
That's right. But get those prepaid cards, and that way make sure it's a refillable one. Don't use one that just expires. That way you can go into Walmart, refill it, they'll swipe it, they'll add more to the card. And then you can continue to use that to pay you log onto your cell phone account, put in that new credit card information that'll run it. You can have now it on auto pay, all those kinds of things with that credit card until all your financial situation is resolved, which can take time. And now you've got that mix of cash and card to be able to function.
That just reminded me of something. So if you go into like a bill pay and you're paying off like a car, like a phone or something like that, and you're making that payment, hey guys, if you put your financial information in, there's always this little box at the bottom that says, would you like to save this information for future reasons? And you're like, guys, this is just the best advice I could give you. No. The answer is no. Don't save it. You're right. It's convenient to not type 16 numbers next time. However, it also becomes really, really easy if all of that information is displayed for the next person that gets on the device that you just used. So don't save it. Don't save that information. Don't allow the search engines to hold on to that stuff. Don't save anything.
And if you're using a public computer, so if you go to a library or other places where you're using a public computer to pay your bills, you want to make sure whatever browser you're using, look at the settings and make sure that it is not automatically saving your card information.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us have settings, because sometimes I like my computer to remember my passwords, never my financial information, and very rarely my passwords. But, make sure that it either is the option never save anything or always ask. There is a third option, always remember. You never want always remember. at least always ask or never remember.
Mhm.
Because that's, if your Gmail gets hacked, they have all of your information now. They can log in, they can see all of your accounts, they can see all of your credit cards, they can see your bank accounts, log into everything. And it's devastating if they have that access. So never let it save that information automatically, let alone, preferably, never let your browser save your information ever. It saves you 10 seconds to do that, and it could cost you a lot of money.
Thousands and thousands.
Take the extra 10 seconds and type in your information every time.
Sorry, let me say tens of thousands. That's more accurate.
Yeah, it is an expensive process.
So, I think we've beaten the horse to death, but we need to at least leave on a lighter note. So I know this episode is going a little long, but we need a lighter note. Joe, can you help us out, please?
Now, it's not just humans that have a bad day every now and then, even when it comes to very serious things. And so if anyone's familiar with agility racing for dogs, you know that these are timed competitive events.
Yeah.
Some days, dogs just aren't there for it. So this one's a little bit of an older one, but it's making its way around the internet again. And this time, it is taking Lobo, which is a husky, and his run against Fame, which is a border collie, who had a spectacular run. So Fame is the first one in these videos, and he runs through these. He makes it through in 29.53 seconds, which is 8.61 seconds faster than the second place dog in that competition at that point. So this was an extremely fast run. Lobo, on the other hand, took his sweet time. He was definitely in it for the looks and not for the time. So he went through a lot of these things very casually. At one point, he decided to walk over to one of the judges and even try to see what was in her treat bag before he got back to his run. And so by the time he was done with his run, he had 60 faults and a total time of 76.32 seconds. So with the 60 faults, he came in at 136 and 32. And so that was a 2-minute run, which is just astronomical. But even for dogs, sometimes you just have a bad day. Now, Adam hasn't seen this video yet, so I'm going to play this for him so that he can see just what dogs are like when they have a bad time. Because I think he could use a little camaraderie there with a husky having a bad day. All right. So if you can hear some of the sound here, this is the Border Collies competition.
Wow. That dog is awesome.
Super quick. That dog's having a good day.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Now we get to watch the husky.
It's like running away from the camera. Just,
Not today.
it's one weave. Oh, there you go. There you go. He's like, oh, you want me to go through them all? Okay. All right. At this point, the owner's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Any treats? That is fantastic.
He is taking his sweet time.
I love how it just went up on that little seesaw and just. I like the commentators.
Oh yeah. So good old Lobo, even though sometimes it feels like we are alone on some of these bad days, just remember Lobo had a really bad day.
I feel like Lobo had a great day. Lobo had no care in the world.
He was having fun that day. But definitely did not win that competition.
I envy Lobo, like in the sense of like today, I'm not trying to win a competition. Well, let me say this. I tried to win a competition and today I want to be Lobo because I just don't want to have a concern. I just have too many that I got to jump through and under and over and around and weave. And yeah, like I like the idea of being Lobo.
There you go. So yeah, take some inspiration from Lobo. When these things happen, you've got a lot of obstacles. Just kind of chill out for a little while.
I'll see if I can get permission to. It's a YouTube video, so I can link it because we post this on YouTube. I can link them all together, so we can use that and show that. But the point is this: is guys, some days you're probably wanting to be Lobo. And other days you want to be Fame, and it's okay. You can be both. You can be all of it. It's, but I think that's a good contrast to kind of figure out how many F's you have for the day. So, see, I did. You don't even have to bleep that. That's what's good.
That's right.
All right. We have reached the end of our show for today. So, as in last couple episodes, guys, life is too short. So keep laughing and learning. And remember, idiots have way more fun.
Check shoes.